Now, to each member of the church I say, keep on the covenant path.
The officiator will represent Peter at the altar. A couple will now come to the altar. Brethren and sisters, this couple at the altar represents all of you as if at the altar, and you will be under the same obligations as they will be. We are required to give unto you the law of the gospel, which is the higher law taught by Jesus Christ, as contained in the Holy Scriptures, to give unto you also a charge to avoid all like-mindedness, loud laughter, evil speaking of the Lord's anointed, the taking of the name of God in vain, and every other unholy and impure practice, and to cause you to receive these by covenant. Each of you bring your right arm to the square. Each of you covenant and promise before God, angels, and these witnesses that you will observe and keep the law of the gospel and this charge as it has been explained to you. Each of you bow your head and say yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Travis Wayne Goodsell. So that Google chat guy had the audacity to even send me an email to, and again, repeat, uploading can be frustrating. Processing. What an ass. What an ass. So, you have to watch the previous videos to understand what's going on. We are going to talk about the law of the gospel, the higher law, for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. There is no such thing as higher law. None. Nelson made it up, like he's been doing his whole presidency. And the church changes everything from what he says at conference, at the pulpit. And so he has replaced the Christian documents that have replaced the Jewish documents. This is so filled with hate. And yes, it's hate. You cannot replace another religion and claim yours is correct when you're thousands years later. So, if we need to go into the story, the character Jesus tells the people, I am not here to destroy the law and the prophets. I am here to fulfill them. Big difference about saying, I'm not here to destroy the law and the prophets. I'm here to give you a higher law. Yeah, big difference. See, what he's saying is, I'm here to fulfill them, is that he is the prophesied Christ of the law and the prophets. The law refers to Deuteronomy 18, 15 through 19. And I'm not sure if we've gotten to this yet in the New Testament lessons, because it doesn't sound like it. Or maybe, well, it may have been one of the earlier ones, wasn't it? Let's check. Just so that you know, I will be publishing the 1830 Book of Mormon in 2 formats. I'm just waiting to find out if I need to give recognition to somebody for helping me. So it could be today. I hope it's today. We'll see. And so It's over 100 years old. It's fair game for me to post it for free on academia.edu. And so the true scriptures of Joseph Smith need to be restored, and I am in that process. So just so that you know, it's coming. Let's see. Not here to destroy. Not destroy. Fulfill. 10. Matthew 5. Yeah, we did already go over it. Think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill. So, if I did cover it, we're covering it here. And it's been so long, I don't remember, because that's in Matthew 5. So it was weeks ago, which was probably the other day, because I was behind because of the problems the last 9 months. Alright. And so, yes, the law is Deuteronomy, even though Deuteronomy means repetition of the law. And so since it's a repetition of the law, it's the same content as the law, so we refer to Deuteronomy as the law. This is what Jesus is referring to whenever he says the law. It's not the Torah, the law. The one papyrus scroll that was the law, which we have as Deuteronomy. Okay? And so he's here to fulfill it. Both the law and the prophets, whom Joseph Smith sends us to Acts rather than to Deuteronomy 18, 15 through 19. And then, if you keep reading in that passage, there's some additional information that is kind of important, which I think is why Joseph Smith sent us here. In verse 24, yea, and all the prophets from the name of God, Samuel, and those that follow after, as many as have spoken, have likewise foretold of these days. Fulfill. Prophecy. Learning of the Jews, manner of prophesying, book of Revelation. So guess what? It's not Jesus. Jesus is Christian. Unless you want to restore it back to the Jews, then he's an apocalyptic literature character as a type and shadow of their Christ of the latter days. Big difference. See, the Jewish Christ is going to be a mortal human being born already. He's here now. This is it. These are the latter days. The star dates that the Jews gave in their prophecies, they're now. They're happening. We're in the final year of the latter days. So, breaking news, if you're new. And so, Nelson is creating his own gospel. Gospel is an Anglo-Saxon word, which means God's spell. Not Godsmack. We're gonna find a video of theirs, put that in the description below, and I will record it so I can remember to do it. But it's a story, not a witchcraft spell. Though Jodin had magical powers, but it's a story, a tale, a yarn, campfire story, that kind of thing. And so, yeah, It's the story of Matthew, the story of Luke, the story of John, the story of Mark. And then there's other stories that the Catholic Church didn't want to have put in, so they rejected them. But as I just read to you from Acts, they're all prophecies, because this is the Jewish literature still. It's not Christian yet, because Christianity didn't happen until 325 CE. And so the scriptures were already written, and thus the interpretation is not Christian. This should be a no-brainer. You know, you don't say tennis shoes among the Mormons of 1830. That would be a fiction book, wouldn't it? Sort of like tennis shoes among the Nephites. Fiction. Because they didn't invent tennis shoes back then. When was tennis shoes invented? Let's find out. Come on. (1931) was the first shoe actually marketed as a tennis shoe, was made by Adidas in 1931. Okay, so anybody claiming to be wearing tennis shoes in any publication are lying to you. They're pulling a fiction book on you. If it's before 1931. So Joseph Smith was not wearing tennis shoes. The Lamanites or Nephites weren't wearing tennis shoes. It's a fiction book. And they are. They're for Mormon kids. Tennis shoes among the Nephites. So I'm hoping you can understand it. And it's what's called, in technical, scientific, big word terms, an anachronism. Just stick with tennis shoes among the Nephites. And so Nelson is a big fat liar, pants on fire kind of guy. He always lies at conference. We should expect more lies this conference, because there's no such thing as a higher law. But yet he doubles down and explains it to us. We are required to give unto you the law of the gospel, which is, it's just a God story. Story of the gods. Prophecy. The whole good news thing, that's a evangelicum from Latin, or the Greek version variation. Let me find that again real quick. Evangelium, and the Greek is euangelion, meaning good news or good telling. And so, yeah, good and God are interchangeable. So you're looking for Emmanuel, which translated into English is sun god, the Egyptian sun god at noonday. So notice how Joseph Smith refers to him in the description of the two personages and Nephi in the second vision. All right. And so instead of the story of the God, it's now being referred to as a doctrinal principle. That's where Christianity screwed it up, and Nelson is carrying on with that, but is now changing it beyond what Christians have changed it to, and it now means the higher law taught by Jesus. No, he's the fulfillment, because he's apocalyptic literature. He's a god, and it's a story about a god. Sun god of the future, who's right on Earth right now, according to the prophecy star dates of the Jews. And so the rest of it is exactly the same. And thus why Mormons hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. Because it says, to give unto you also a charge, a commandment, to avoid all light-mindedness. Because I'm a blonde, yeah. Loud laughter. After telling a blonde joke. They set me up. Breathe. Evil speaking of the Lord's anointed. There it is. And they have twisted the meaning of Lord's anointed. Because everyone in that room watching this video have all been anointed. And so Mormons have twisted the meaning to mean only the leaders of the church, the prophets. And some will go down as far as your elders quorum president as the Lord's anointed, in obedience to authority, patriarchal authority. But no, it actually refers to all Mormons. We're supposed to keep the sacred secret among all Mormons. Helaman, chapter 6, verses 22 and 23, because otherwise you're 24 like me. The taking of the name of God in vain. What is that name? Is it God? No, that's the title. I can say God all the time and still won't be taking his name in vain. We did go over this in the New Testament lessons. I do remember that. It's where calling him Jesus, for example. That's taking the name of God in vain, because that's not his name. It's Emmanuel, sun god. You should have known that. I gave you the answer already. And every other unholy and impure practice doesn't go into details. We're left to choose for ourselves what's unholy and impure and impose it on others. And to cause you to receive these by the covenant path. You do know that's what he means when he says covenant path, right? Follow the covenant path. This and the other four. Right? Because apparently there's been some confusion on that when I expose it in previous videos. People are confused. I mean, seriously, he is throwing out so much secretive information about how he's evil, and it just goes right over Mormons' heads. Right over. Because your spiritual witness won't let you see it. You don't see it. Hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. It's got to be faith promoting, or else we've got to make it faith promoting. Just like with the SEC, the church replied, we didn't want to reveal it to the public and to Mormons because it wasn't faith promoting, that we had committed a crime. Oh my God. And Mormons still miss it. Still miss it. Fox 13 News Utah covered it. Other news in Utah covered it. National news covered it. And Mormons miss it. Because they can't see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. And yeah, I know, Weevil got it. Hilarious. I first heard about that when I went to Rick's. Dear God, Weevil. Weevil wobble, but they don't fall down. And so, yeah, they completely twisted this around. And so, as a result, Mormons are instead incited to violence, hate, intolerance, ignorance, and abuse, bullying, because they need to be obedient. And just like a Pharisaical law, they've missed the whole point of the law, love. If these commandments keep you from loving someone, and they do, because people need to keep the prophets in check. If you just let them go and get away with whatever they do, people get hurt. Like LDS, protect LDS children. The bishop wrote to the presidency, please have a script for bishops to read to the youth for worthiness interviews. Excommunicated instead. So he then had to do a protest. Thousands of people backed him up. Again, please make a list for bishops to read during worthiness interviews. And the church caved and conformed and complied. Because bishops were talking about sexually related material to children. When we've already had enough rapes by bishops. To criticize is not being evil. But Mormons cannot distinguish the difference. The prophets won't distinguish the difference. To them it's the same. Don't tell us how to do our job. We speak for Jesus. Excommunicated. And if it's Travis, kill him.